Because as human beings, what we often do is we project, we repress, or we express. And none of that is really dealing with the emotion. None of that gets rid of the feeling. So it leads to disease, it leads to depression, it leads to so many different things. If you just feel the feeling, because it just wants to be felt, if you feel the feeling with zero judgment, without trying to change it, it disappears. It doesn't disappear, it does its job. It's felt. And that creates so much room. It's incredible.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? And welcome to another episode of Legacy's Journey, $1 Million Agencies, where we talk about creating what outlives you. This is season 2. And of course, I'm your host, Cameron Williams, owner of Kinley Consulting, where we focus on strategic financial growth for marketing agencies so that they can live the dream life they deserve and not be a slave to their business. And we do that through CFO and consulting services. Now, told y'all, season 2 is going to be bigger and better. Told y'all I had to go out here and start finding people now. You know, first season I had to, just some people I knew. Season 2, I had to expand the reach. I had to go put in some phone calls, send some messages. And you know, this guy, I don't even know how we connected. I can't remember. You know, that's how it is nowadays. You just connect with people. But in December, we started not working together, but just, you know, an accountability partner about just how to keep growing. And we gave ourselves a little challenge that we've continued to do even now. And then I thought about it. I'm like, bro, why don't I have you on the podcast? Like, what was I thinking? He was like, I don't know. So I said, let's do it. So, ladies and gentlemen, we got Justin Charpentier here to bless the podcast, give us some information, share his journey. So tell the people name of the company, how long you've been at it, and then we're going to get into it.
Sure. So Justin Charpentier, like you said, the name of my business is Chardev Media. And that's through several iterations here. Chardev is short for Charpentier Development, which was the name of my construction company. And that just kind of developed into Chardev. Funny story about that. I wanted that domain, Chardev, because Charpentier it's difficult to pronounce, it's difficult to spell, right?
Yeah.
Charpentier Development's a mouthful. So Chardev. What I didn't know is that CHARDEV also stands for character development in the world of developing. So I went to get that domain and I had to pay an arm and a leg for it. I couldn't figure out why. So now I'm married to that. I spent so much money on that domain that one will be around for a while.
Man, okay, yes. So don't expect any new branding and name changes differently. We're keeping it. All right, cool. Tell the people, how long have you been at the marketing? How long have you been in marketing?
Yeah, so I started marketing. Well, look, I started in advertising back in 2006, and I worked for a publisher in print. So we had 5 newspapers and a magazine, and I got into advertising for the magazine, and then I had several businesses since then, and I've obviously used what I learned advertising, marketing in my own businesses, and then I went into my own business marketing for other people in 2017, and that became a full-time the sole source of income in 2019.
Okay. So I know he was in this for a minute, but I just, you know, we like to establish a roadmap so y'all know we're not bringing on no scrubs or nothing like that. But clearly, he's not new to this. He's true to this. He's seen the game evolve, the switch to more of a digital focus. He's seen all these different avenues. So that's why I feel like he'd be a perfect guest to bring in here. Now, to jump into these questions, one of the things we've been asking everybody is just to kind of start painting a general picture. What was your relationship with money like growing up? We've had some people where they're like, hey, my parents were well off, so money wasn't a thing, so therefore it wasn't a big deal to me. Then, of course, we have some people like myself who is like, we weren't broke, but I knew not to ask for like extra stuff. I knew it was very limited resources, etc.
Yeah, I had a similar upbringing. before I could really remember, like I can't remember this far back, but we lived in a trailer, you know, when I was very young. Um, there was probably some kind of assistance, stuff like that, and then we 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 grew as a family. My parents got better jobs. We had average average, small town middle class income, but like you, it was like if I wanted something, I needed to go get my own money.
Right. That makes sense. That makes sense. Okay. So now let's roll that into you being an adult. So now, like you said, you start to work and you're like, oh man, well, how does that relationship change? Is it one of those like, oh, it's no big deal. I can always go get a job. I know I will continue to increase. Or was this like I'm getting my first check? Like, how are we going to live? Oh man, we about to go to the mall or whatever the case was.
Yeah, my spending habits were terrible. Um, I started working, like officially working a real job. I was 12 years old. I got a job with my town teaching swimming lessons. I was a swimming instructor at 12 years old. That was cool because in school, in that level, so that was junior high. I didn't have really any expenses. So I was able to save money. But then when I kind of got out on my own, it was like I spent it before I made it. I knew the money was coming in on Friday and it was gone by Monday. And I was in the army. I was in the army too, and that was kind of the thing that a lot of people did in the army. Is the check came in and it was gone before the next one came in.
Yeah, well, thank you for your service first off, because you know that army life is not for everybody, but we're definitely thankful. But that's interesting. Okay, so now bleeding that into that same habit, now you're starting to get into the business world and working on your own, and then it's a side hustle, and now it becomes this full blown thing. Did some of those same thought processes or habits transfer over, or were you able to say like, nope, we're starting a business now. This is how we're doing it.
Yeah, I mean it was trial and error. It was a lesson. The whole journey's a lesson. And what happened for me was I bought a bar, and I like to drink. I used to like to drink quite a bit. That was part of the culture of the army. That was what I did in college. Um, as soon as I bought that bar, I stopped drinking. So yeah, it was interesting.
Really?
Yep, I didn't really like dealing with drunk people, and being on the other side of the bar, I could see myself and I could see how ridiculous that I was acting, prior to that point. And look, I have nothing against drunk people. It's just in business, trying to do business with drunk people, it was more annoying than anything. And that was back in 2000. Well, 2006. It was the same time that I was working for the publisher. So 6 to 8. The market tanked in 2008. So that whole transition right there was um, better lifestyle choices, which led to
Mm,
better spending habits. I mean, they weren't perfect. They don't go from bad to good overnight.
right.
And then also in that time, my first son was born. So the responsibilities changed, and I kind of grew up a little bit, really. And it was, it's still a work in progress. But you can't succeed without cash flow. You just can't, no matter what your business is. And that was one of the hardest lessons. The bar business is mostly cash. So either have it or you don't, right?
Yeah, that makes sense. So, what would you say? I don't know if you want to say what's the biggest lesson you learned from running a bar, or maybe the better question is, what is a lesson or two you took from running a bar into now having a successful agency? Because I'm sure some people will be interested if there's some type of
Oh,
parallel
yeah.
between the two.
I mean, man, there was so many lessons, right? So I bought the bar from a guy who he was a CPA, and he didn't have anything to
Whoa,
do.
wait, whoa. Did you say a CPA on this bar?
He didn't have anything to do with operating the bar, but he owned the bar. So when we bought the business, I mean, technically, I leased the business. I bought the business, leased the establishment. So doing the paperwork, like I trusted him. He's a CPA. I figured he's got a handle on things, and it wound up like he did some things wrong, and I kind of just by reading the directions on the paperwork, kind of suggested that they were wrong. But he said, "No, I do this all the time. Let's roll with this." And it delayed our liquor license by like 6 weeks, which costs money, obviously. So from that point forward in that business, I was like, I'm not listening to anybody else. I'm doing this my way. That is the wrong lesson. That is the wrong lesson. You know,
Yeah.
everybody makes a mistake. The thing is, like, what I learned the really difficult way over that 2-year period was that you can do it on your own, but you're going to make all the mistakes that everybody else in business has already made, and you're just going to slow yourself down. That's probably the biggest lesson that I took from all of it.
Yeah, and that's funny because like literally we were just talking to a client the other day and they're trying to purchase a business as well. And that's what I was trying to get through to them. I'm like, bro, make sure the paperwork is right. Like, look at their financials, send them over to us so we can look at them. Because I promise you, they're gonna tell us a story. And he's like, well, I know him. I've been working with him, and I'm pretty sure. And I made sure I said it like 3, 4 times, but he was like, I promise, I know this, and that. So I was like, all right, cool. I just wanted a regular show. I told you he needs these financials so we can see because based on what you're telling me, some of what he's saying and asking for doesn't line up with what your expectations or what you think. So I think that's super important to note that when you're about to acquire a business or take it over from somebody else, check that paperwork, show it to your finance team and your legal team. So that way, if there are surprises, you're not surprised because you technically already knew. So I think that's a great point there. All right, let's go into. So now this is probably not the first business because you said you were working at 12, but like you're running this bar. Okay, that's cool. So when you make your first sale, or we'll leave it at that, when you make your first sale, so maybe not at the bar, but as you get into more of the marketing side, what do you remember about that? How did it make you feel? Like, was this oh my gosh, I can really, really do this? Or was it kind of like I knew I had it. I knew I had this in me.
Yeah, I've some of the things I've done over the years. I sold cars, and I worked for a communications company, and I went door to door B2B sales. So selling, I knew I could do. You know, it's finding the right product to believe in to sell.
Okay.
And before marketing was construction, and it was finding business, finding customers, and selling jobs to them. And so it's just an evolution in business. I mean, I don't really remember feeling like, holy cow, I'm gonna actually have my own business. I don't remember that because I just kind of grew up that way. My great grandfather, who I never met, incidentally, he passed away before I was born, but he passed down. He was an entrepreneur, man. In our small little town, he owned like basically a city block, and had a grocery store, had a department store, had some real estate, and so that kind of entrepreneurial spirit is genetically somewhere in there.
And you know what? I low key wonder though, is that a genetic thing? Because you do find that a lot of business owners tend to have a parent or a grandparent or great grandparent. So I feel like we should do some type of research about that because I think that's a good point. All right, let's switch it and flip it to the biggest sale that you made to date. So I don't know what it is. You don't have to tell us the number. You can if you want to. But whatever that biggest number was, what ran through your mind when it happened? Like, did you celebrate it? Was it one of those like, "Ah, I'm thankful, but let's keep rolling. Like, whatever that sale was, how did that just happen, and what was the scenario?
So I had made this Facebook group after right after COVID. It was just kind of like my pivot. COVID, I think, affected so many people in so many different ways, right? The uh, the clients that I had at that time, they were all scared, and most of them fired me. I think I had around 14 clients.
This is with the agency at this point.
Yes, and
Okay.
so when COVID happened, within a month to 6 weeks, I was down to 4 clients,
Mm.
and I panicked a little bit. Like, what am I going to do? Like, I don't know. That's how everybody was. That was kind of the climate at the time, was panic, right? And so I created this Facebook group, and I had a mentor at the time, and we just kind of worked through that. He kind of like slapped me in the face a little bit, like, "Hey, man, come on, were in the Army, you've been through a war. I think this is probably not as difficult as that to navigate. So talk some sense into me, and I built this group up. You know, not that many people in the group. Like even to this day, there's only about 1,400 people or 1,200 people or something like that in the group. So anyway, I I sold a package from the group. It came from the group, and it was an amazing feeling. And that was it was a year long package with a website. It was 96,000. That I still have that client. So I'd have to do some quick math and tell you what they've paid me. Let's see.
It must be a lot if you gotta do math.
Yeah, I mean I've made over 300,000 on that client. So
On the one client?
yeah, yep, monthly recurring for almost 4 years, plus some big upfront costs.
I mean, I don't know if you can get any better than that.
The dream client. I mean, that is my
I mean, yeah.
favorite client.
We love you so much. We are so thankful for you. Okay, cool. All right. So now rolling on from that one. So now, of course, and let's use like that client, for example. So we have this great client. We're able to charge him a lot, but that also means that he must require a lot. So at this point, now you moved on from the bar. Now you're at the agency. Now after COVID is starting to grow and mature. So now how do you start growing your team? Because I think for most agencies, this is one of those key things that either slows them down or propels them super fast. So what was the way that you were able to successfully grow your team to be able to handle this new influx and these great clients?
Yeah. Again, I'll go back to the COVID kind of reset, and it was really much more of a benefit than it was a hindrance because at the time, 14 clients, they were all small, like $500 a month clients. I was working as much as I was working. I had been working in construction, and I was doing, 60 to 80 hours every week at a desk versus on the job site, but it was a lot of work by myself. And I was stressed out, burnt out, but that's what was feeding my family, right? So
Right.
kind of deal with that. And COVID happens, I panic, then I get this client, and I'm like, oh, all right. So here's the deal: we get bigger clients. That was a little bit scary too, because if you have bigger clients and the one client is contributing a higher percentage to your bottom line, then you have to worry about the churn, which happens for so many reasons beyond our control. So I did start looking for a team. I brought on a couple of remote people, and then I found a really good white label partner to take a lot of the work off from my plate. And that's when we really blew up, to be honest.
Smart. So taking care of that fulfillment. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Let's go there because I think some people in the agency space kind of struggle with that. Like, should I keep everything in house and try to do it all on my own or with my own internal team? Or is it worth it to outsource it to a white label agency that maybe, I don't know, some people may say has better processes or specialized or whatever. In your experience, having done it both ways, maybe talk through maybe some of the pros and the cons or what worked the best for you.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you that there's a lot of white label agencies out there. So it's important to really vet and find the one that is the best fit for you. What worked for me was their process. Their process was very ironed out. It was very well put together. But it left a lot of the quality control in my lap, which is good because they're all my clients, right? So you could go to there's some really big white label agencies. I'm not going to name any names or anything like that, but they just, it's like churn and burn. They just they don't care about your clients.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, we ain't gonna say y'all name in case y'all listening, but you know who you are if you churning and burning.
Yeah, I mean that's the big deal. I think that's where the hesitation comes from with white label agencies.
So, do you think it's a way to, or I don't know if you want to say a better way to vet white labels? Because again, I mean, I want to just keep emphasizing you're not new to this. So at this point, hey, a good partner looks like ABC versus ones that are questionable. If you see Z or G, that's maybe an indicator or a flag to not. Like, do you want to jump into that, or is that too specific?
Oh, we can jump into that. I mean, for me, it's um, interviewing. Like, if you're looking for a white label partner and they're not willing to be interviewed, which they should be interviewing you too. I mean, you should be a fit to work together. It shouldn't be
Right.
one side or the other. So to me, that would be a red flag. So there's a lot of, I don't know if there's a lot. There's several that you can just kind of go to a website and start buying white label services. But if you try to vet somebody, if you try to have that conversation, it might be turned into like a demo or something like that. To me, that's way more cookie cutter. That's way more of an in the box approach. It's probably not going to work for my situation personally. That works for a lot of people, probably, especially if you have one single vertical and your process is really ironed out on your side. You could very easily just offload the work as far as labor goes. So a lot of that is really dependent on you being the not the white label side, the client facing side.
Yeah. So, okay, it sounded like you're saying the best way to approach white label is you need to have one or two very clearly defined verticals. So, you need to be, we're SEO and website building. Now that you have that, that's a lot easier versus if we do all these custom packages and custom, that's probably not when you should be trying to go white label.
Well, it's crazy, man. I was the general agency. I never niched down. So I'm coming at you from as an agency who worked in a lot of different verticals.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's why it was so important for me to vet who I was working with because of that.
Okay. That makes sense. Because I think this is super important because, I mean, you know this, and most of our listeners, I would hope, know this. But, I mean, when it comes to scaling, there comes a point in time where you're making great money. But like you said, that time aspect is getting sucked up. So I either got to be willing to give up some money, but I get more help and can increase capacity or get the stuff off my plate. Or I just got to be okay with working these 60 to 80 hours. So I think that's a great point to jump into and discuss. Now, another piece of this, when you're starting to make all this money, of course, you guys know we're going to talk about the finances. So we already know you have somebody. So tell us, how is your current CFO or accountant? How are they helping you to grow your business? Like, is there some cool things they may be doing or suggesting to help you reach your goals? Is there something maybe out of the box that they're helping you to do? Like, get a little bit into how they're helping and assisting you as you're continuing to grow.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's anything really out of the box. So here's something else about me. Before I went and worked for that publisher, as I got out of the Army, I was in business with one of my best friends in the world. And we did a lot of consulting. His mother was a public accountant, and it was really her business, and we worked together with her in the business. So I did a lot of things related to this. I was a fractional controller. He was a fractional CFO for a few different businesses. So I have a handle on this. I have certainly an understanding of the things that we should and should not be doing. It doesn't mean that I always do it, you know. So really, it's just for me having that CFO in place is keeping me accountable, And there's really nothing groundbreaking. I'll tell you what changed things for me was profit first.
The infamous profit first. Okay, jump into it because you know I got a love hate relationship with profit first. I like the guy that's the author, but go ahead, jump into it.
No, I mean, coming from a background where my spending habits, I didn't have good spending habits. I wasn't taught, and I think this applies to a lot of people. I didn't grow up with a good spending example. I didn't grow up learning to I guess portion my money. I didn't use cash to create passive income. I didn't do any of those things that I'm now trying to teach my kids to do. So when it comes to profit first, I really examined what I was doing at the time, and I was certainly overspending. I was overspending on labor. I was overspending on software. And if you I don't really want to restrain it, but if I can contain it slightly and not be so frivolous, then that's certainly going to open the door to a lot of other things. That's what I like about Profit First.
Okay, we'll let you talk nicely about Profit First. I like Profit First. I like the general concept. I think personally, we kind of use a modified version of it, but I think that to your point, when you have people who may not be as familiar or strong with numbers, it can complicate it and make them confused more than it helps. In the general sense, the premise of Profit First will be come in when you log into your bank account, you see your 4 or 5 accounts. Whatever's there is there. If it ain't there, that's all you got. My only challenge with it is to the person who's not numbers oriented. They're trying to start doing those percentages and then they get off. And then, well, I took shorter this time. So do I make it up? And I got desperate and that's where it starts to get messy. So just be careful when you got to use that. I like Mike Michalowicz. I love his book Clockwork because clockwork is super important. We've utilized that concept, but just be careful with Profit First. If you're going to do it 100%. And if not, just do the general concept of I need, an expense account, an income account, payroll and tax, call it a day. But about him, because he is not paying us to promote his book. All right, let's jump into this one. So, all right, you said they're not doing nothing too much out of the box. So then I'm going to flip this question and go into what has been your best investment to date? Best investment. It doesn't have to be the most expensive, but I got this and this. I love it. We use it every day or it completely changed my business. What is that?
So you're talking about a tool or like a literal investment? Because I had
whatever one it can be a tool, it can be a thing, it can be a trip, I guess. It can be whatever you want.
Yeah. So I don't know. That's a good question. I don't think I have any really like groundbreaking things that I use.
You have something like, let me think. What would my answer be? I don't know if I would say this is the best investment, but I would say top 5 investment, top 3 is when we went to Costa Rica for the first commitment summit. And the reason why is because a lot of those people I met there, I still talk to this day. Matter of fact, that's how we met. So I met a ton of people there and they were actually good, legit people, not weird, none of that. That was like my first as an adult international trip. Bought the wife, so that was like her first one. So it was a lot of firsts, and it just expanded my mind, just kind of re-energized me about, getting out and learning about different cultures, meeting different people, and connecting with people now all over the country. So that would be an example for me.
No, that's a great example. I mean, I have invested in masterminds and mentors, and I was literally just having this conversation with someone in Messenger before I jumped on here. I can't really think of one that didn't pan out for me with a lot of vetting. The first mastermind that I ever joined or the first program that I ever bought was about wholesaling real estate. And I followed the lessons to the T, and I made 6 figures on a real estate deal without, crazy.
I mean, you can't beat that one.
Yeah. I would say that those are the best investments. And that's coming after saying I didn't want to use any help in my bar business. I rely heavily on other people's mistakes and other people's experiences now to get ahead.
Makes sense. Okay. I like that. So the big real estate 6-figure deal. Okay, let's keep it rolling. Now, how has your definition of success changed from when you started to now? Because I know for me, 5.5 years ago, it was, man, we got laid off. I just need to be able to pay all the bills and be at zero. Versus now, it's a lot more about how can I support the kids? allow them to experience a life that, they don't have to struggle or worry about anything. Yeah, bills still need to be paid, but, it's more focused on the kids, like allowing them to experience other things and how can we help and serve our clients to the best of our ability. What would yours be? Like, how did it change? So maybe it was this, but now that I've been in the game for so long and been on my own, it is now this.
Yeah, I mean, the whole this whole experience has changed. Like you, again, getting started in business was about earning money on my terms and paying the bills,
Yeah.
and not having to worry about a layoff. Or I worked in law enforcement, so um, anything could happen in that realm. Anything, you know what I mean?
I do know what you mean.
So it was time to exit there, and I did that for the stability. I did that for the benefits. I did that for everything I hate. uh, that structure, that because of the family. And so going in the business initially was full time. Initially was building that security, making that money, keeping the ship afloat. Now, success is it's always changing, but it is definitely serving. It's serving clients. It's serving my family. It's being an example for my children. I think one thing that I've seen in the last 5 years that's my eyes have really been open to is like the education system and what that was really originally designed for.
Man.
And I don't want my kids to be drones. You know what I mean? Unless they want to. I want them to have
Unless they want to, yeah. Yeah.
you know.
Let's talk about that because, like, I feel like more and more people are starting to say that with education and how, like, school in and of itself isn't bad, but the way they're being taught is outdated or antiquated, and they're just not feeling it. Like, go more into that.
Here's the perfect example, right? In 100 years ago, you would pick up a little thing, a little cup, and you would put it to your ear, and you would hit the thing, and you would talk to the operator and say, "Hey, can you connect me with Cameron, please?" And they
Right.
do all the switchboard and everything. And now you have this, right? This is everything. This is you have the whole world right here in your pocket.
Literally.
But if you go into a classroom 100 years ago, it was a bunch of desks, students sitting behind, and the teacher at the front of the class with a big blackboard, chalkboard, right? The only thing that's different is the chalkboard is either a dry erase board or a smart board. Everything else is the same.
Yep.
How do we go from, hello operator to this, but our schools are the same? I mean, that's the perfect example to me.
Yeah, and I mean, I agree because I mean, everybody on the podcast knows we homeschool, and I literally was talking to somebody. It was this morning actually, and he was like, "Tell me about it," and he was like, "I just don't see how that balances," and I'm like, "Bro, you got to think like the only reason school is so long is because we have to work, so we got to have somebody watch our kids for that long." I'm like, my kids are done with their work by like they start at maybe 10:30. They're done by 1:30. So you don't need that much if you're hitting the subjects and going. Plus, it's 1-on-1, not 1 to 25. So it's just a lot different. But we're not knocking school. School has its benefits, but homeschooling has come a long way. Online school has come a long way. So yeah, schools. But I'm finding interestingly, a lot of agencies are starting to really switch more to online schools or home schools or hybrids. So it's a really interesting time in regards to school.
Be homeschooled too. My oldest does go to public school. He's a junior. He went to private school last year, but missed his friends at public school, and that's really what that is. It's like he's a product of public school. He made his friends and his whole social life and everything in public school, and that's what he wants.
But the younger two are homeschooled?
That's right. Yep. So
How are they? I'm sure they love it.
Oh, I mean, my middle son, who is 9 now, he was in kindergarten when the pandemic started, and so we wound up basically homeschooling him for that second half of the year, right? And that was done with the teacher virtually, and it was Nobody knew what the hell they were doing. That was typical.
Nobody.
And he was in a private school, and we're like, man, we're paying somebody, and we're homeschooling him. So why don't we just homeschool him? And that's how that turned out, which was wonderful because we control the curriculum. He's got the freedom, just like you said. We start at 9:30. He's done at 12:30.
And then it's like they can do stuff like our kids are really into reading now. Mind you, ours is 8 and 6. So they're really into reading, drawing, art, So it's like do that stuff while you're a kid. Cause when you're an adult, you're an adult. You'll be adult. So, it's just been very interesting. But yes, the schools are quite interesting.
Yeah. We could go real deep on that,
Okay. All right. I'm just thinking yeah. Okay. Let's keep it rolling with the next question. All right. Now, going back. Well, you know what? Let's roll with, since we're on kids and family. So now that means you as a business owner get to spend a lot more time at home with them, get to see them a lot more. So what are some things you guys do that the kids look forward to, or is a family thing? So in our case, we do pancakes every Saturday. So do you have something that you look forward to? Do you have something that everybody kind of enjoys? Talk through that for us.
We do a lot of stuff outdoors. We live in we have a farm, so we just have a lot of cool stuff. We have a lot of property, and we do a lot of cool stuff outside. So one of the things that we look forward to when the weather cooperates is every Friday we do a hike with the other homeschoolers in the area, which is pretty cool. That's something to look forward to. But really, we have the freedom to do whatever the heck we want. I mean, we can go on vacation and not miss school. We can go and we can spend 2 weeks in Central America and still make it to school. You know what I mean? So that's probably the biggest feature for the family is being able to do things that we want to do that enrich our lives. Not just it's not just about spending and going on cool trips, but it's about being able to be immersed in the culture that we visit.
Yeah, because even I know when we travel for some of our conferences and masterminds, it's the same thing. It's like, oh, let's go to the Dallas Zoo, or let's go to the zoo in San Francisco, or we're right here by the water, so let's go look at this museum. And to your point, you get to bring a lot of the stuff that they learn and get to actually put some real world application to it. Like, we don't need to know about the geosphere in the Earth's core right now. Let's hey, you keep, my kids are notorious. Daddy, can you take us to go get some Moe's or some Panda Express today? I'm like, oh, how much money you have? I have $3. Panda's $10. So what does that mean? Well, Dad, that means I can give you my $3 and you can use 7 of your dollars. I'm like, that's not what that means. That means you don't have enough money. So what are we gonna do so that you can earn some money? So to your point, yeah, you get to really incorporate them in what you do and show them other things. So
yeah,
I definitely agree with that one. Okay, now let's talk about wifey, because you mentioned wifey, you mentioned homeschool. So now if you working, wifey holding it down, I can tell you from personal experience that a family trip or a family outing is not the same as boo time. So don't ask me how I know that one. But what are some things you guys do to stay connected? Maybe it's throughout the week or throughout the month, so that way, she gets her specific time as well as family time.
Well, I'll tell you that we're not that great at each of us getting our own time. That is a weakness of ours. But one thing that we do, we spend time with each other. When the kids go to bed, we have our time. The kids go to bed, and I don't mean in the traditional sense. I mean we talk about goals. We talk about things that we can do to support each other.
Yeah.
And then again, it's like we have so much freedom in our daily schedule that if something comes up or something we need to talk about something, we do. So her role is extremely supportive, and now she is also from a family of entrepreneurs, so she gets it. and she's about to launch a business herself. So, yes,
Okay,
I'm
all
really
right.
for her too.
Yeah, I agree with that too. Because to your point, like we can't always hit date night. So we got certain shows that we may watch together, or sometimes it's like you said, we just sit there in silence because it's like nobody's tapping you. No, Daddy, I got a question. It's none of that. So just catching up. How was your day? What happened? Like, was it a good day? Anything I can do to help? Do I need to know? So I definitely agree with that because I think sometimes, even culturally speaking, like we put such a big emphasis. You gotta be doing a date night. Like after you have so many kids, date nights is you gotta do some praying
I mean,
to make it to date
we
night.
talk about it. Sometimes the talking about it is enough.
Right. We're gonna dream about that last day we went on, that last trip, and how good it was. So let's plan for that later on in the year. So yeah. I definitely feel you there. Okay. Now let's go back a little bit, going back to numbers. I forgot this one. So you talked about having your buddy that's helping. What would be this may be before him, but what is a not so favorite accounting or tax horror story?
Oh man, when I was doing everything myself, um,
Mm-hmm.
everything was done in retrospect. So zero tax planning, right? And the horror story is, I think we went 3 years, and probably one of those years is before business was full time. So we went 3 years without filing, and we had to file backwards 3 years. I mean, you can't plan ahead 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Brutal. And we actually had a
Brutal.
refund. We had a refund that we were doing that one year, but we had waited so long. Uncle Sam got that money.
Yeah, he said, nope, you didn't get it. You don't get it. Yeah, and that's not an unfamiliar story. We hear that a lot where it's, man, I was just trying to make my money. I started to get it back and had to pay, Yeah, that sucks. Okay, now we're going to go back to the fun questions. All right, so we talked about family. We talked about, for you, that definition of success is helping them to live enriched lives and being able to experience different things, how you guys stay connected, you and wifey get your time in when you can. So now let's go back to high school or college you. And what would you tell them now? You know everything you know now. So you got today's brain. What would you go back and tell the high school version of you and the college version?
Yeah. So in high school, I think about this a lot. In high school, what I lacked was mental fortitude. Played
But
sports,
you said you were in the military.
not in high school though. I went on.
Oh, okay. I see where you're going. Okay,
So
okay.
I played sports. I was a good athlete, but I could have been a great athlete. But I lacked that mental peace, you know. And I think if I had that mental peace, I probably would not have wasted so much time drinking and partying. It's really difficult to say that I want to go back and change things because I'm where I'm at because of every experience I've had. But I think I probably could have gotten here more quickly. My father-in-law talks about this. God has a plan for you, but we have free will. So you can live
That's true.
the way that God prescribed for you, and you can reach your potential, or you can do what you want. One way is going to get you there faster. So you can fall off, you can get off the path, but you can always get back on the path.
That's facts. Okay. So more, okay. I see how I get it's hard for those of you who don't know. Okay, so at the beginning I said how we've been doing this accountability thing. One of the things he's been doing is 100 burpees per day. And if you do CrossFit, you know that nobody likes burpees. And if you used to play football, we would call those up downs, but you don't have no pads on. So you just doing them. So it's just really weird thinking like no discipline, because it takes a lot of discipline to do 100 burpees when nobody's there, nobody's making you do it. You're not in a class to get. it's not like everybody's doing it. So it's like, well, I'm tired and this sucks, but it must suck for everybody. So I'll keep him. None of that. It's just him. So it was just weird for me to hear that high school version and college version needed more of this. So,
Well,
okay.
what's interesting about that too is like physical discipline. I was never lacking physical discipline. Being mentally tough. Let me give
You
you.
don't think those go together?
Well, I think that physical discipline, doing 100 burpees a day, does build mental toughness. But I
So you
don't
can
know.
have one without the other.
Yeah, because like I wrestled in school, and I remember in my senior year, I wrestled a kid who went on to be. He was like a 3-time state champion. He was on the national team. He's the youngest NCAA Division I coach in Columbia University history. Really fantastic guy. Super disciplined, super mentally tough. I wrestled him, was beating him in the first period. We had 3 periods, right? For those of you that don't know about wrestling, it's 3 2-minute periods. You score points or you pin or be pinned, right? I was beating him 5-2 at the end of the first 2 minutes. I don't even know if anybody had scored on him prior to that. In my head, though, it didn't add up. Like, how am I beating this guy? He's so much better than me. And in the second period, I lost to him. I really didn't need to. And reflecting back on that, if I were mentally tough to handle that, if I were strong enough mentally to handle that, and it revolves around identity, I suppose. I think my entire life, I think I would have reached this point in my life much sooner. And this is not the final destination by any means.
I like that identity. That's a whole different subject. Okay, so there's that one. Now, bringing it back to present day, what are 2 or 3 things that you would contribute to your success? These may be things that you do daily, or if I don't do these, my day is going to get off track. What would those 2 or 3 things be for you?
Yeah, so it's the same vein, really. It's reinforcing that mental fortitude. I need to
Okay.
meditate every day. Now I need to do the burpees every day. Yep, it's crazy. It's crazy. I'm actually doing 125 a day now.
Oh, so you've upped it 25. Okay, yep, see. We had to do burpees. Was that yesterday? Or the day before? No, yesterday was we had to do burpees on Monday. I was not a fan. I was not a fan. And I thought every time I do burpees now, I'm like, Justin's doing this and more. But that don't mean I want to do them. But I do them. But it was like 20 bar facing burp. It was crazy.
Mm.
It's crazy. Continue. 125 a day.
Yeah. And I sit in the sauna. I try to sit in the sauna every day. If I don't make it to the sauna, it feels weird, but it's not like my day's gonna fall apart.
What's the purpose of the song
It's
for you?
it's another experiment in discomfort because I put the sauna around 200. And
Whoa, 200 degrees?
yeah,
Like what my oven would be when it's on preheat.
yeah, it's hot. Yeah, it's the same idea as the ice bath. I just don't have. I don't know. I haven't committed to the ice bath every day.
So you'd rather burn up and sweat your life away.
Well, there's a lot of health benefits too. I mean, to both the ice bath and the sauna. But
Okay.
it is an experiment in discomfort. So it's really hot. I meditate in there. What's really crazy is like you're so uncomfortable you just want to move. You want to keep moving. And really what I focus on while I'm breathing, while I'm meditating is sitting still. And it's the whole mind over matter thing. And it's literally about what I was talking about. Just being mentally tough. Just knowing that a lot of the feelings, the emotions, the things that come up day to day in business, the ups and downs, it's just a reaction in your body. It's a survival kind of instinct, right?
Mm-hmm.
If we can get past that, we can make better decisions and we can stay the course and we can have the discipline to come out on top.
Okay, now take that, now put it over into business. Now, because you're doing that there, you found it's helped you in business by
Well, man, there's so many ups and downs in business. So many ups and downs. There's the clients that don't buy. There's the sales calls that you bomb. There's the mistakes that you make for clients. There's churn that you just didn't see coming. There's all kinds of different things. Some somehow the money doesn't add up. Whatever it is, it could destroy you. It could really destroy you. It's a challenge to be an entrepreneur with all the ups and downs. So if you're equipped to handle those ups and downs, they're not as high and as low.
I feel it. I guess that's how I use CrossFit.
Yeah,
I
CrossFit.
just never thought of a 200-degree sauna to get the same result. I just never thought of that. I'm really over here like, man, that is okay. All right. Last question, and we're gonna wrap this up. What has being a business owner taught you about yourself? Because a lot of people say, man, I never knew. I remember we had my guy Travis on here. He was like that. I think he said that he was impatient, or like he would try to find the way of least resistance, and he has to constantly fight that. Some people say that they were determined, or that they didn't like conflict, or that they didn't like people as much as they thought. So what are some of the things that you've learned about yourself now being a successful, I want to highlight successful, because for those of you who don't know, ran big teams, made big money, went overseas, and was in the army. So you already know what they're doing over there. So what has been a business owner taught you?
It's difficult to reduce this to like one or two things.
Well, I mean, yeah, this is your episode. You can, if you got 10, we got 10, however many, whatever.
So the entrepreneurial journey is really, to me, is a personal development journey. And what I've discovered about myself is that I thought I was a person who was growing before I was a business owner. But the growth that you go through in order to become successful, you have to grow, right? In order to keep up with the dynamics of being in business. And it was really eye-opening, really, to see the fact that lots of people around me aren't growing. I wasn't growing. We get caught in our routines, and years go by, and you don't even realize it. And so that was my favorite thing about being in business. And then, I mean, just so many things. You can really write your own ticket, but you have to commit to it. And when things get tough, you also have to get tough. And there's 1 million cliches in all of this, but they're there for a reason. They make sense. When the going.
I like that. I think I'm finna tweet that one. When things get tough, you gotta get tough.
Yeah, I mean, you do, right? And that's what the phrase, the cliche is: when the going get tough, the tough get going. And it's one thing to do burpees, but it's another thing to live that whole thing, your whole life that way.
Okay. I'm waiting for some more quotes. So when I make this one tweet, it's gonna be like several Justinisms. So that way I can just be like, he said all this. When things get tough, you gotta get tough. Okay. What else we got?
Oh, geez. So we're talking about what I discovered about myself. Well, here's a big thing that happened this year, right? I learned how to process emotions and why that's important. To me, traditionally, like, first of all, I'm kind of a macho guy from being in the military, from law enforcement, whatever. The traditional male don't have too many feelings, right? My feelings were either good or bad, black and white for me. Feels good, feels bad. That's it. But that's not not really life, And it wasn't like a toxic thing. I don't feel like it wasn't toxic at all. I don't mean that by any means. But
yeah, it's simple. We're guys. It's just it is or it isn't.
That's right. But so I joined a mastermind this year, and I'm the only man in the mastermind. And there are 8 other women. There are 8 other people. And they're all women. And there's a difference between masculine flow and feminine flow. And there's a reason that you want to incorporate both. And so for me, becoming aware of emotions, feelings, and then feeling those feelings, it makes a lot of room. It makes a lot of room for more growth, for more success. It's actually pretty incredible. And then I read, I bet you read this too. 10x is easier than 2x.
Oh, bro. Book of the year for 2023. This was the book right here. Yes.
So
talk about it.
I read the book. Great book. In that book, he references David Hawkins and the book Letting Go. So then I read Letting Go. It is all about what I just said. It's all about recognizing your emotions and then feeling the emotion and letting it go. Because as human beings, what we often do is we project, we repress, or we express. And none of that is really dealing with the emotion. None of that gets rid of the feeling. So it leads to disease, it leads to depression, it leads to so many different things. If you just feel the feeling because it just wants to be felt, if you feel the feeling with zero judgment, without trying to change it, it disappears. It doesn't disappear, it does its job. It's felt. And that creates so much room. It's incredible.
So how is that, you being more, I don't know if you want to say in tune or aware with your emotional state of being, how has that helped you to grow as a business owner? I can guess it, but I'd rather you say it.
Yeah, so emotions and feelings cause a lot of reactions. It causes those projections, those expressions, and those repressions. And I think being reactionary in business that's the wrong way to go. You want to be proactive. That was my, I don't do the word of the year, but if there was a word of last year, it was proactive. Because when you react, you're just you're kind of giving away your power. You're giving away your ability to be in the driver's seat. You're kind of in the passenger seat. So that's what it does. It opens it up. So I become aware that I've been triggered or that I'm having this feeling or this emotion or whatever, and I don't need to react to it. I just need to feel it. And as it passes, then I can take an action. You know what I mean? So it's not a reactionary kind of an action, but it's been it's been phenomenal. I think I started practicing this sort of thing in September, and by no means am I an expert with this, but it's been life-changing for sure.
Yeah, I feel that because even like when I think about me in regards to our company, when you have girls, so an 8 and a 6-year-old, you can't be as rough because you gotta listen to what they say and feel it and hug it up. But to that point, even allowing that to bleed more into my adult life and in my marriage and in friendships, like keeping it in the business world. Because it used to be like, oh, this client did something and oh, I'm upset. But to your point, like, no, I'm not upset. Upset is you reacting to something. I'm hurt that they would say this, and this when that's not the case. Because I put in a ton of work and I went outside of scope to try to fulfill this project or go above and beyond. And it feels like I'm unappreciated. So that's the real emotion. But to your point, I'm angry. No, you're not. That's a response to something.
Right.
So yes, I do think that is super important as a business owner because then you learn not to take things as personal too. Like I know for me, and I know this is one of my weaknesses, but I'm like loyal to a fault. Like if you one of my people, we ride or die. You know what I'm saying? All of that. And I treated my clients like that. Like this is to life. And then they leave and you're like, what did I do? And it's not personal, it's business. And when you are better in tune with those emotions, like you said, you have that moment, dang, in reality, I'm sad they're leaving because I know I gave it my best, but I also know and am aware that I did the best I can do. I didn't slight them, I didn't half do it or whatever the case is. So I do think as a business owner, to your point, being in tune with how are you really feeling, or what does this really make you feel like, is super important, so that you continue to grow. Like, have your oh man, we really would hate to see you go, but we understand you got to make what's best for you versus because I've seen some people, they're like, I'm gonna keep their account and I'm not gonna give them their stuff, and I'm like,
Yeah.
you're taking it too personal. So great point there. I never thought about it like that, but it makes sense now that you said
Yeah.
it.
I mean, it's like a rabbit hole, man. Like, you can explore this as deep as you want to, but if you take responsibility for everything that you have or don't have in your life, that nobody else has the power to control that. If you're, because that's really all we can control, right? Is ourselves.
That's what I tell my daughters. Because there's this kid, we're gonna wrap up, but yeah, at the gym, they came. And there's this little boy, I think he's 10, and he was calling them jokes. I'm not paying attention because I'm like, they ain't fighting. And I think one of them, oh, you look like a thumb, and oh, you look like the Eiffel Tower. And they were like, Daddy. And I'm like, but is it true though? No. Well, if you already know it's not true, why are we wasting time worrying about it? It's not that serious when you can choose to ignore that person because you already know who you are, which that's your identity point, but we digress. We could do this off. We talk like every day, y'all, so we could low key keep going, but we're not. He has to save the world. He has clients. He has his, well, you probably already did your burpees, I'm guessing.
I did my burpees.
So then he don't have to get to his burpees, but we're going to let him go. But before that happens, tell them, how do they get in touch with you? Who do you serve? Best platform, best contact information. Who do you help? All of that, so that if they're like, man, this dude is cool, I'd love to work with him, maybe work out, or connect with him in some manner. How can they do that?
Yeah, for sure. So right now I'm focused on working with coaches. We're focused pretty much solely on PR. So we like to get people featured. We like to elevate status. We like to make people famous in their markets. And the best platform to reach me on is Facebook, and it's so it's facebook.com/j.sharpie. And the website is Chardev, CHARDEV.com. And man, I just love working with cool people. So anybody who wants to be famous in their market is always welcome to reach out.
And do they have to be local to where you live, or can they be
anywhere in the world?
We gotta tell the people, because this may be somebody in Europe who's like, maybe somebody in California, Atlanta, Dallas, Chicago. So we just want y'all to be clear.
Yeah,
You're just trying to get on these stages, platforms, get your brand out there more. You know who to come see. And you see, I'm a sell him. See, he has emotional intelligence. He has life experience intelligence. He's been doing marketing ever since at least 2006. He's seen all the sides, from the physical advertising to the digital. He's worked with big companies, small. He knows what it's like to work with the white label company versus bringing it all in. Why would you not want to? And he does 125 burpees a day and lives on a farm and homeschools his kids because he wants the best for them. Like, I'm just saying. All right. Well, any last words you want to give to the people?
I just want to say thank you, man. I appreciate you having me on your show. And thanks for the accountability too, man.
Accountability. I need to go do my 3, I think. Our accountability, so that we continue to grow, is we have to make a certain number of touch points per day so that we can continue to go upwards and not hit that downward valley and peak, like you were saying. But anyway, this was Justin, guys. Hopefully you guys got something from this, whether it was, and yes, I'm finna hit all these gems he dropped, because even though he said it all nice and cool and subtle, he dropped some gems. Emotional intelligence is super important for you as a business owner, so that you can separate not only how to deal with clients, but how to better deal with yourself, especially in regards to being a family person, or if you're married. Experience matters, so that you know, how do I best work? Do I best work with an in-house group, Or is it the best thing for my business to outsource that to maybe a white label solution? He talked about the importance of knowing your identity, mental toughness, like knowing, can I work through this, and how are some different ways we can build that? No, you don't have to do the sauna. No, you don't have to do 125 burpees, but it is important and crucial that you have something to continue to make you push yourself so that when real life hits, it's not just, oh man, we're going to fold. No, we have some fight. We have some resistance. And there's some other things in there as well. You guys got to go back, listen to the whole episode. If you enjoyed it, share it with a buddy. Tell them to listen to it. Leave us some comments, like it. Do everything you can just to blow this episode up, because we know that, it's about sharing your journey. This is somebody who's been doing it for a while. So these aren't things I would take lightly, right? This is, when you need to go talk to the OGs in the game. Here we go. Just one up. So we say all that to say thank you guys so much for tuning in. Until the next episode, we're going to go find you some more great guests. I'm not going to make any promises, but I do know they're going to be OP. So until then, thank you guys for listening to season 2 of Legacy's Journey. Until the next episode, take care of yourselves. Peace.